How much
So
is
he's
coming off
engaged.
this way?
I like that, I like the engagement.
Yep.
Did the best.
Right?
Fun.
Yeah.
I know I'm an engineer, but in my farm irrigation.
Yeah.
Over the time, we was over water, it's gonna go, but regardless, that's, it's like, this seems a bit high, it seems like it's bypassing.
Mike moved on this
So
tonight.
I felt like if we concrete diversion in some aspect, yeah, kind of force it over there, and then having a channel here of some sense just to keep.
The green button.
Top one.
On the
It's
top.
red, yeah.
There you
Oh,
go.
I'm looking for a green button and all red.
It's right, you look at that.
Now that the engineering building site's done, let's try that first.
Town of Evansville Council meeting, August 12th, 2024, has begun at 7 p.m. May I get roll call?
Mayor Candace Machado,
Here.
Councilmember Dacia Edwards,
Here,
Councilmember Greg Blister,
Here.
Councilmember Phil Gerke,
Here.
Councilmember Lana Dino asked to be excused tonight, Town Attorney Scott Murray,
Here.
Town Engineer Shane Porter,
Here.
Town Treasurer Lexi Erickson,
Here.
Chief of Police Mike Thompson,
Here.
Fire Chief Leo Lawson,
Here.
Public Works Director Robert Llewellyn,
Here.
Town Clerk Janelle Underwood, the rest of the citizens. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
all motion?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The approval of the agenda passes. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Line item 2, public comments from the audience. Do I have public comments from the audience?
Madam Mayor, council, staff, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for relocating the public comment section closer to the beginning of the meeting. I think it'll be very beneficial once the residents learn that they can come and talk about something and not have the mindset of, why should I say anything because the council already voted on it and my opinion doesn't matter. I think this drastically changes everything for the better. And like I said, I just want to thank you all for agreeing to that.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hi there.
Hi, Madam Mayor, Council. My name is Amy Fleming. I am the Executive Director of Central Wyoming Senior Services. I represent the Casper Senior Center, Evansville Senior Center, and Mills Senior Center. And I'm here tonight, just to touch a little bit on the senior district that we are trying to establish, the ins and outs of it and the whys. If any of you are not familiar with what a special district is, which I'm sure you all are, senior district became a state statute in the state of Wyoming in 1997. What's really, really unfortunate is that this wasn't done prior to now because property taxes are a tough subject. I get it. I understand 100%. There are currently 9 senior districts in the state of Wyoming. All our neighbors here, Johnson County, Converse County. And that's the only way their senior services have continued. There are several that are looking at it. I come from Uintah County, where I was the director of the senior center there, and I was supposed to establish it there before I left to come here, but it wasn't an election year. I left before the election year, and I wasn't even really quite sure how to do so. The fact of the matter is, state and federal funding in part has went down for 8 years or remained flat with expenses going through the roof. We also have not seen the local grants like we used to. I write them. I write grants all the time. But oftentimes you ask for 15,000 and you're getting 1,000 now. Losing oil and gas tremendously hurts, as they were very, very big givers. I've been here 2 years in October, and in going back through financials, the Central Wyoming Senior Services has lived on their reserves for roughly 6 years, and those reserves are nearly gone. I'm very honest, I tell Candace this, very honest when I say we have maybe a year left. That's it. Maybe. What could we do? We could write more grants, absolutely. But they're going to give 1/10 of what you asked for, and that just seems to be what's going on in this community and others now. Fundraising. You can only do so many gigantic fundraisers a year. We have our big one in April. It's called A Night at the Races, held at the Ramkota. That's our biggest fundraiser of the year. We netted $15,000. I have to find $270,000 every year. And unfortunately, it's just not sustainable. So this is an option like many other counties in Wyoming are doing, and they're all approaching it. And like I said, it's been a possibility since 1997. I think it's very unfortunate that it hasn't been done before now. So we're trying. Our services are so important. We have currently 8 people in Evansville on our WISE program. That's where we can go into their homes and help with things like housekeeping, meal prep, personal cares, helping with making sure that they're getting their bills paid, all these things that go awry that cause our folks to have to go into a nursing home. If something were to happen to Central Wyoming Senior Services and we were to cease operations or cut down, we're going to see, and the state knows this is a state figure, 40% of our people will be institutionalized within 6 months. And Casper doesn't have the beds, number one. And when they do, many of will be on Medicaid, and that'll just come right back to us. Meals on Wheels is also part of this, as well as Wyoming Senior Citizens. Meals on Wheels is struggling with cash as well. Not quite as bad, but their time is coming in just a couple of years, but they would not be able to handle the influx. Should the senior center close down, they wouldn't be able to handle the influx of people that they would get seeking meals. Because the meals we serve at the senior center are oftentimes the only meal that person gets for that day, more so often than not. A lot of people don't understand how that works, in that we will turn no one away for their inability to pay. We don't even ask. There is a sign that said suggested donation $6. It costs us $13.85 to produce a meal. Suggested donation of $6. That's all it says. And I don't know who pays. I don't know who doesn't pay. I know who buys a meal, like a punch pass, but I don't know who doesn't pay, and nor am I allowed to know by the state. I think that covers everything. Any questions?
I just got a couple comments. I know this has been an ongoing situation because I used to work with the senior center when they first got started, and funding has always been an issue. And it is too bad that when it was built that the funding wasn't set up for it.
Absolutely, it should
On
have
a
been.
continuing basis. And in my humble opinion, it seems like Natrona County has a tendency to build stuff with no thought into how they're gonna operate it. And which is,
That's unfortunate.
yeah, I'm in the last year of my term, so I can say things like that. Maybe
Sure.
some of the other ones can't.
Sure.
But I think The only part on your flyer that I think was a little bit confusing was when you talked about assessed value, because people look at that and they go, well, my house is worth 400,000. Well, that might be fine, but the assessed value is 80,000.
Okay, so that's a good thing you brought that up. I failed to mention what this would look like. So we are asking for a 1 mil, just 1 mil. You currently are at 79 mils. We all know that. We're asking for 1 mil. What will 1 mil do and what will it look like to a taxpayer? 1 mil on a $200,000 house is $1.58 a month.
Assessed value.
No, this
It's
is
on a-
home value
on a
now.
home value,
And the
okay.
the way you get there is you take the market value
Okay.
times 9.253, and that's how you get your assessed value. Then you take your assessed value by the number of mills. So for a house that is 200,000, and let's just say we'll multiply it by 10. That's 2,000. And then you're gonna multiply it by the number of mills, which is 1. But then with that 9.25, it comes out to $20 a month on a $200,000 house. $20 a year, I'm sorry. There's,
Yeah, I was gonna
there-
say.
There's a formula in there that can be very confusing, because if you don't move the decimal point, it skews it a bit. But we do know, Pat Sweeney, everybody's familiar with Pat, highly involved in this, and we've met with the county assessor, we've met with the county treasurer, and established what 1 mil is. On a $200,000 market value home, it's $1.58 a month. So on a $400,000 market value home, it would be $3.16 a month for the 1 mil. 1 mil would bring 1.7 million to the senior agencies. Right now, I know that the Senior Center qualifies, Meals on Wheels qualifies, and Wyoming Senior Citizens. I have a copy of state statute, and if you can decipher who qualifies better than any of us, more power to you. But in the state statute, here, it talks about who qualifies. There could be some senior housing built, and that's not a bad thing. They desperately need it here. When the district would get to 4 million, they can build senior housing, according to state statute. Commerce County gets 7 million a year. And the reason is that that power plant, is it a power plant out there? Yeah, that's one of the big reasons. And they still have a bit more oil and gas. So they are doing a lot for their seniors in building facilities with that money. If it's going to be on the ballot next week, yes or no, should the district be established, yes or no? And if this passes, then there will be 5 board of trustees elected in November by the public who chooses to run, and they will run the district. They can be nobody affiliated with the Senior Center, Meals on Wheels, or Wyoming Senior Citizens. There would be a grant process that we all would have to do, just like writing a grant with the state and federal government, or Wold Foundation or McMurray, any of them, Wyoming Community. There's a grant process. We'd have to show the need, and we have to show financials. So, like I said, I need to find $286,000 a year, and that's what I would write my first grant for. That's gonna bring us to a 0. Perhaps down the road, we can take some people off a waiting list. Like I was about to say, we have 8 people in Evansville on the WISE program where we go in and help them in their homes, and that keeps them in their homes, which is where we want them to be. It's best for everyone. It's best for them, and it's best for us. But we have 22 on a waiting list in Evansville.
So let me make sure I understand this. If it raises 1.2 million,
1.7.
1.7 million, that all goes to
The district
Okay,
goes to the district, much like a
So-
joint powers board.
right.
It'll go to the
And then you're
district.
saying that you're gonna apply for grants on top of that. Is that correct?
No, the grants I'll apply for will come out of that.
Where does the rest of it go?
It's gonna stay within the district. When they hit a certain amount that the district still has, they can build senior housing. And it's in the state statute here. It talks about having 4 million. Once the district has $4 million, they can build senior housing with the money. And I'm gonna leave this with you.
You can't.
I have several copies of these, of the state statute for anybody who wants it. With that being said,
So basically, we're building a savings account.
sure, yeah.
Okay, now you lost me.
What's that?
Now you lost me.
No, I don't
I'm
want to
sorry.
lose you, but there's, which begs the question of, could we do 0.6 for 2 years? That can be established. The district can say, oh, we're not going to do the full mill. It can be up to. Does that make sense? So the district can say, no, we're only going to assess 0.5% of 1 mill, but 50% of 1 mill. They can do that, absolutely, and that would be perfectly fine. It will have to go on the ballot again in 2 years to be approved, and if it's approved, then it's every 4 years. What's that?
I said, I'm sorry.
Why?
I just don't believe in the government having savings accounts,
Oh, well, but they don't have to,
but they
is what I'm
do.
trying to say. But they don't,
Because they're gonna keep they're only giving back 280,000 out of,
well, no, Meals on Wheels is going to, will be applying for grants as well as Wyoming Senior
okay,
Citizens.
so,
Okay, I'm gonna,
but anyway, it's okay. It's all right. I found out what I needed to know. Thank you.
gentlemen,
Well, that was a question I had, just to clarify that. So, I mean, they're gonna raise 1.7 million roughly.
Right,
You're gonna apply for 286,000, but there's other entities. that
absolutely,
apply. So
that will apply as
There's-
well.
1.7 may or may not.
There's 2 other entities, right?
Or anyone who qualifies according to state statute. We've identified that. I don't, anybody
Okay.
else, once they read this, and if they qualify, then they qualify.
Okay.
It's for senior services, so it may be, hospice. That's one
Okay.
we want about, or it's the senior transportation, or I don't know yet. And we've tried so hard with the county attorney to try and get them to say, will you please tell us everybody that qualifies, and they don't want to touch it, and the state doesn't want to, so that's something that will be up to the trustees.
Okay,
Chief,
I got your email, I'll reach out to you.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you. You, Phil,
I'm Phil.
okay, Phil.
You and I have had
We've emailed.
conversations. Yes.
Chief, go ahead.
So, legality question about the election. So, it's a middle. The election, you said it's in next week's election,
Mhm.
which is generally per party, so whether it be Republican, Democrat, so is it on both?
All
parties?
three.
All three?
Mhm.
Okay. Because
It's on the
generally,
five-
like,
non-
tax stuff's all on your November ballot, not your primary ballot.
This is going to be on the primary ballot. In fact, I think I've already seen it on the ballot, and it's on it's on there. Republican, Democrat, and the independent.
Interesting.
Okay, thank you. And I'm gonna leave some stuff here. Is that okay for any of you?
Please.
Okay. I'll leave it here. These business cards. If you scan the back, the QR code, it takes you to the website, everything you possibly want to know.
Excellent.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other additional public comments out there? Last call for the first round of public comments. Okay, first round of public comments are closed. Line item 3, award of bid for 2024 patrol unit. It's been a long day. Patrol unit.
I will let you tell us some.
All right, so through the budget process, we budgeted for 2 replacement vehicles. And this is for the first one we dealt with was for the investigator car. This is for the patrol unit. We put bids out. There were 3 people or 3 entities that inquired, and we only got paperwork from 2. The vehicle that's getting traded in is one of the 2016 Chargers. And when I visited with the 3 folks, one of the issues with this car is during the July 4th week, it built a significant ticket engine. So after having it assessed with mechanics, they call it what they call a Hemi tick, and could be up to $6,000 in cost to replace. The car was already on the list to be traded, so I said, well, I'd rather take the hit, with the fact that it's got the issue in it, versus let's take taxpayer money and fix it and then still trade it, because you just never know. So out of the two that submitted, we had one out of Utah, Young Chevrolet, and then ESS out of Kansas. Some of the differences, which one of our citizens caught as well, going through it, so people pay attention to what we're doing. The one out of Kansas had some things that the other one in Young does not. However, that did weigh in on the decision. So my recommendation is Young for a couple things. In the specifics of verification, so Young's does not have what they call the lighting solution stuff in it. Typically, so some of these, so whether it be Ford, Chevy, Dodge, when they do lighting packages from the factory, they use like Sound Off Signal, Wayland, which are companies that we do not use. We use Code 3 for our lighting, so they don't really mesh with that. And typically, to make a mesh, you have to buy extra pieces and parts. So we didn't weigh that factor in there. Kansas didn't correctly fill out the paperwork. I did visit with them a little bit about that. One part of the bid that is not equated because they didn't talk about transportation costs. So we've already did business once with Utah. It's a lot cheaper for me to take a car there and bring it back than to have Kansas and pay Kansas because it'd be about $1,500. So outside of the bid process, that's why we selected Young for the bid award.
And that total bid price is $43,928, and then they are offering $3,000 to go towards the trade-in for the 2016 Charger.
In discussions with
43.9, right?
$43,928.
Correct.
And then $3,000 for the trade.
So in the discussions with the dealerships, Kansas was more specific. One of the reasons that the Chargers are not bringing the money in like they did, say, a year or 2 years ago, is Dodge is going away from the Charger. So a lot of agencies are getting rid of them because they are afraid they're not going to get parts in the future. So there's a influx of trade-in, but nobody wants them. And so a lot of times in the dealer world, if they got, as an example, Janelle has a separate side business somewhere, says, yeah, I'll buy that if you take it in on trade. They're having a hard time getting people to say, yeah, we'll buy it from you. And so that was one of the factors that came in with the low trading value.
So, and then what's the cost to equip them? Is that basically double, right?
It can be.
Yeah.
I'm working on that right now. The last one, we were around 28,000, but because we did,
Right.
time you do your cage, your electronics and blah, blah, blah in there. So I've reached out to a couple different outfitters to start getting some numbers. I'll have a better idea of that.
Last time I didn't ask that question. I was kind of surprised when we got to the end.
Yeah,
No, I understand.
it's expensive and
Yeah.
unfortunate, with the inflational cost of all the money that got printed, that stuff is just getting higher and higher.
And it's not going down anytime soon. And I agree with buying a couple every year. I think it's a good plan.
So we just need authorization or approval to award bid to Young Auto for the 2024 Dodge Durango.
I so move.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor of the bid award approval?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right, line item 4, ordinance number 11-2024, an ordinance to repeal chapter 18-2-5, police powers, chiefs and members at fire's third and final reading.
Madam Mayor and Council, brought before you tonight is ordinance 11/2024. This is an ordinance to repeal chapter 18-2-5 police powers, chiefs, and members at fires. This ordinance was brought before you for first reading on the 8th of July, 2024, approved on the second reading, 22nd of July, 2024, and it's brought before you tonight on third and final reading.
Any discussion? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance number 11-2024, and ordinance to repeal chapter 18-2-5, police powers, chiefs, and members at fires, third and final reading?
All motion?
Do I have a second? All those in favor? Motion passes. Line item 5, ordinance number 12-2024, an ordinance amending chapter 8-2-3, pet licenses required and impoundment fees, third and final reading.
Madam Mayor and Council, brought before you tonight is ordinance 12-2024. This is an ordinance amending chapter 8-2-3, pet license required and impoundment fees. It was brought before you and approved on first reading the 8th of July, brought before you and approved on second reading the 22nd day of July, and it's brought before you tonight on third and final reading.
Any discussion?
I just got one question for Chief Thompson. So if we impound a pet and they are not licensed, do we require them to get licensed when they leave? Okay, good. That's the only question I had.
Any other questions, thoughts? Do I have a motion to approve ordinance number 12-2024, an ordinance amending chapter 8-2-3, pet licenses required and impoundment fees, third and final reading?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Line item 6, engineers report. Mr. Porter, take it away.
All right, good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. So I have a few things tonight. It should all be in your packet, but a few things just to go over. On the new park project, I have pay request number 3 tonight for approval. So the total pay request is for $117,495. We hold 5% retainage, so total retainage we're being withheld for pay request number 3 is $5,874.75. Makes a total amount due for pay estimate number 3 of $111,620.25. And this is for the work completed in July, which is primarily the asphalt for the parking lot and the concrete sidewalk work. So just recommend a motion to pay Installation and Services Company for pay estimate number 3.
I so move.
Here's my. Do I have a second?
Can I ask you a question really quick? Sorry. Did you say this was for the finishing up of, what did you say again?
This was for the parking lot at the new.
Oh, okay, okay, I'm on the same page.
The paving work.
I'll second. Sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes. It passes, yeah.
Okay, and the next thing I have is on the Lathrop Pathway project. I have pay request number 4 from Crown Construction. This is again for work completed in July. The total pay request is for $126,743.50, withholding 5% retainage, which is $6,337.18. And so the total amount due for pay request number 4 is $120,406.32. So just recommend a motion to pay Crown Construction for pay request number 4 on the Lathrop Pathway project.
Do I have a motion to approve pay request number 4?
Can I say a little something?
Go ahead.
Okay. I know it was brought up that about the pathway being 10 feet wide. Well, I drove by it like 5 times and I thought, that doesn't look like 10 feet, but I went out and measured and it is 10 feet. But it doesn't look that long. And I actually see people using it. So, and actually my RAV4 will drive right down that sucker and there's no potholes. So anyway, it is not a bad addition, especially with the hotels and everything else right there.
Right, do I have a motion to approve pay request number 4?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes on pay request number 4.
The next thing is on the same project, I have draw request number 10, and so this is actually a draw request for Crown Construction's pay request number 3. If you remember, they're reimbursements, so we had to wait for the check to clear before we can do the reimbursement to the state. So it's reimbursement for the prior pay request. So the total amount for that invoice was $157,259.67, of which the grant covers 80%. So the actual draw request was for $125,807.74. That leaves a remaining balance on the grant of $287,647.68. So just recommend a motion for the mayor to sign and submit draw request number 10 for the pathway project.
Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
So the last thing I have is, again, on the pathway project, we want to issue substantial completion for the project. The project is substantially complete, which in our terms is when the project can be used for its intended purposes. There is some stuff left to complete, and it is the seeding and sod replacement. We had a completion date of August 15th. So we're ready to issue substantial, but the contractor, their seeding subcontractor, does not recommend doing sod or seed this time of year. He'd like to wait another 4 to 6 weeks and get into the early fall. So we want to issue substantial completion, just so that they have that on record. And then next council meeting, I'll probably bring forward a change order that extends that final completion date out another 4 to 6 weeks to give them time to get the sod laid in, under better weather conditions. So just recommend a motion tonight for the mayor to sign the certificate of substantial completion.
Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, sir. Line item 7.
There's a motion to approve.
I was doing so good too.
It's okay.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Do I have a motion to approve the engineer's report?
I'll motion.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Now we can move on. I was doing so good too. It's fine. Line item 7, public comments from the audience. A second round and our final round of public comments from the audience. Last call, public comments. Would anybody out there like to give a comment? Okay, last call for public comments is closed. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:30 p.m.?
I'll motion.
We can rock, paper, scissors. Do
You can have this one.
I have a second?
Yeah, I'll take second. Yes.
All those in favor?
I'll take aye.
Aye.
Motion passes at 7:31 p.m.
You need signatures.
You're doing so good too, Shane. You know how to read. It's all the discussion. Okay.